Hey everyone, hopefully you can hear me. Welcome to Virtual Vegfest Live, and I need to make sure that my mic is working. If you're on and watching, please put in the comment box if you can hear me so I can make sure that these little bud things, they just kind of messed up on me. So I'm on the road still. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. Just got here at 4 p.m. and got set up to do the live talk. It has been a whirlwind of a week. We have been in 4 different cities: Greenville, South Carolina, Asheville, Knoxville, and Chattanooga, Tennessee. So this has been a ton of fun, and we are going to have in-person events this year. So getting back to Virtual Vegfest Live, thank you to Orgain for sponsoring our live talks this month. And of course, if you'd like to win prizes, you need to go to virtualvegfest.com and click the enter the prize or contest on the little tab, and you'll get entered if you do some things like subscribe to Virtual Vegfest YouTube and get 25 entries for that. You can win prize packs from Orgain, Follow Your Heart, Crofters Organics, Hodo Foods, Shroomeats, and Cinnaholic. The only caveat with Cinnaholic is you have to live within 50 miles of one. And hopefully out of 6 winners, one of you does live within 50 miles of a Cinnaholic. It's simple to do that. We love to give away prizes, and we thank our sponsors for donating those prizes so we can give them to you on a monthly basis. We're going to talk about a vegan journey today, which is incredibly important and probably something that a lot of people can relate to, because Michele had health issues and she met an awesome doctor and it changed her life. And I'm not going to tell their story. I want you to hear their story. So let's go do it. If you have any questions or comments, remember to put them in the box. And I'm guessing you can hear me because nobody said you can't, and there are people watching, so thank you. Here we go. Hello. How are you?
Fine, how are you?
I am doing great. I'm really glad that you're here. Obviously, Michele is in the middle, and Dr. Breakey is on the other side, and I'm Helene. We normally have our names underneath, but we're going to do some share screening, and our names will be all over the screen, and we don't want that. So I'm going to throw it. Let's see. Either one of you who wants to. Michele, you know what? You go first. I know you're a little nervous, so please share, like, who you are and you're like, give us a little bit of background about you and who you are and everything, and incorporate Dr. Breakey, and we'll just go on with the conversation.
Sure. I'm Michele Wallace. I started this plant-based journey several years ago. I've been an entrepreneur. I've owned several companies. And after a successful career, I just was really looking for something different. I really like the sustainability of food, and that's where it was kind of leading me. But then I had a lot of health issues that were pretty major. I suffered 2 TIAs in 2005, and that was from taking doses of hormone replacement therapy. Obviously, I can't take hormones in any way, so that led me to having these 2 TIAs, and it was life changing for me, because what happened as a result is they were so bad that I could not write my name at all. I sought out a doctor who then prescribed me, put me on a cocktail of 3 different medications. And it took some time before he got the right dosage, but it was working. So the dosage of that was, I was taking 3 different medications 3 times a day. And after about a couple years, I landed back in ER again after those other 2 episodes. And they took some blood work because they're still trying to figure out what's going on. And they then told me that I was on a toxic level of one of the medications. So I tried to, at that point, seek out something healthier, because I was just never feeling good. You know, you hear that story about you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's where I was. I never had any energy. I was tired all the time. I had pain in my joints. I had chronic sinus infections, and Dr. Breakey can tell you how bad they are. They were really, really bad, and I would get them several times a year, to which I would end up with pneumonia and bronchitis every single time. I had chronic inflammation. My body was very acidic, rather being more alkaline or towards that. The weight gain had just gotten totally out of control. And I started doing some research, and a friend of mine at work told me to watch two documentaries that changed everything for me. And it was What the Health, which was on Netflix. I'm not sure if it's still on there, or Prime or Amazon Prime. But I watched What the Health first, and then she told me to watch Forks Over Knives second. And I did that, and I can tell you that after the first documentary, I looked at my boyfriend and I looked at each other and we said, oh no, we are not eating this way anymore. And I promptly went into the pantry and dumped everything out that we couldn't eat, because I'm the kind of person that if I'm going to do something, I'm jumping in with my whole body. We dumped everything, cleared out the fridge, gave things away, and then I went grocery shopping for what we're supposed to eat. And we started on that journey, but I still had a lot of questions. And I know you can go online and read things, but there were still these questions that, for instance, one of them was, well, how much am I supposed to eat? And people would just say, well, you just eat until you feel full. Well, for me, eating vegetables and fruit, I could eat a ton. And obviously I did, because the weight gain was still there. So it wasn't until I went to a seminar put on by PBNSG, and Dr. Breakey was the guest speaker at that. And I went there really hoping for answers. And it was a light bulb moment. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. And I almost want to cry, because it just changed my life so much. And he did his slideshow presentation, and I went up to him and talked to him afterwards. And he wasn't taking any new patients unless you were plant-based. And of course I was. Of course, I still was not eating the way I was supposed to. And I did call up. I was able to switch to him, and it just changed my life forever. I mean, both Jeff and I feel like we owe him everything, because he answered all of my questions. And of course, one of the things that I was still hanging on to that I didn't realize was so bad was the use of oil. And Dr. Breakey had asked me, are you using oil? Well, yeah, I've been cooking with olive oil for a long time, and I would cook with flavored olive oils. And he told me, it's up to you, but if you want to get healthy, it's no oil. So I then went home, and if I had a picture to show you, you would laugh. I had all these different bottles of flavored olive oils on by my stove. So as I was cooking, I would grab it and, use it. So I actually went and dumped every single one. That was hard. It's a lot of money down the drain, but we were so serious about doing this. And Jeff was on board 100%. And when I did that, and I learned, eating slower, that makes such a difference when you're eating. Because I normally do eat slow, but when it comes to veggies and fruit, I would eat fast. So I went back to eating slow, taking my time, and not just guzzling all the food down all the time. And sure enough, the weight was just coming off, and we both lost 35 pounds each. It was wonderful. I can tell you, within a couple months of being plant-based, I noticed that my hands were not shaking as bad at all. And I thought, well, there's got to be some correlation to all of this. And I decided, of course, I don't recommend it to anybody. You should work with your doctor, but me, I decided to take myself off of everything except just one. And of course, I took myself off of the one that gave me the toxic level on the blood test, took myself off of the other one. And then I gradually weaned down on the last one to where I was taking it once a day, then once every other day. Then it was, once every 3 days. And at that point, I was able to take it once a week. And my hands were not shaking hardly at all. And that that was huge for me, because if you can imagine, when I would go into the doctor and he would try to have me draw a spiral circle, and I couldn't do it. And I couldn't sign my name. It was that bad. And being on this diet made that, has healed that somehow. I can't tell you how, but it made a huge difference. Within a month, I felt a lot of energy that I hadn't felt in so long. I was still struggling with the sinus infections. The inflammation was still there, but as the time went on, the inflammation was going away, because I have a knee injury from skiing, and so my knee would always swell up. And I noticed that everything, the swelling was just going down, and I didn't have to wear a knee brace anymore, which was really huge for me. So I just continued on this journey, and we both got better. And then, of course, we had our ducts cleaned in our house, and that helped with sinuses. But because of all of this, I have not had a sinus infection in a year and a half. And that, for me, is very big, because they would be so bad. Dr. Breakey can tell you, I'd be calling up, it's not working, it's not working, what am I going to do? And I'd have to constantly go into his office, and I was getting tests done. And I have not had one in a year and a half, and Jeff hasn't either. So the way of eating in this way is so life-changing. And, you hear that old saying, you're tired of being sick and tired. And that's where Jeff and I were. We were so tired of this. We so wanted to be healthy. We wanted to get better. We want to be around for a long time. And my why for this, for me, was my children and my grandchildren. I want to be able to be there for them for a long time. I want to see them graduate. I'd like to see them get married. I don't know how old I'll be by then, but I'd love to see them get married, and I'd like to see them progress in their life. And that was my why. And, both for Jeff and I, we both feel the same. That was our moment where we had to say, this is so important, that no matter how much you like that steak, no matter how much you like that fish, no matter how much you like all the junk food, it's not worth it, because it was just life-changing for me. Totally.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. One of the things is I want to comment on is it's not a diet, it's a
Correct.
lifestyle. And that
Correct.
I think that is something that I think people mentally need to have in their heads is a diet is something that you do, then you yo-yo back to where you were before. This is this is ethical, this is spiritual, this is physical, this is all encompassing if you do it, right. It's not French fries and, white bread on
Right.
French fries on white bread with ketchup. Yeah,
Right.
that's unhealthy. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a whole foods plant-based diet, which literally changed your life inside and out. And Forks Over Knives is my go-to. It's my go-to movie. If you can get through Forks Over Knives and walk away from that movie and continue to eat the way you were eating, then you didn't watch the movie.
Correct. Correct. And you probably didn't watch What the Health. So as a result of all of this, and because I felt like I struggled so much before Dr. Breakey, he was just everything to me. I decided to write a cookbook and a guide for people. And I went on that journey for a year and a half, making all the recipes, creating them all. And the book came out last year. Dr. Breakey wrote the foreword in it. He even helped me with, some of the areas in it. And I just felt so strong about that I wanted to share that with everybody, so that people don't have to struggle with whatever they're dealing with. There is an alternative to everything if you want it bad enough.
That's awesome. So, the man of the hour, the man who has made a huge difference in probably many people's lives, I'm sure not just Michelle's. Please tell us all about you. I can't wait to hear this.
Well, first of all, thank you, Helene, for bringing me on your podcast, your webinar, and thank you, Michelle, for sharing your moving story. I'm Bob Breakey. I've been a lifestyle family physician in the Ann Arbor area now for 36 years this month. But my story starts even further than that, 44 years ago in medical school, when, as we were studying about human illness and health, I noticed it was really about human illness and disease management rather than getting to the root cause and how do we prevent or reverse diseases that we were seeing so commonly. And I didn't learn it in medical school, but on the side, I had to understand that there is a root cause to high blood pressure, to TIAs, like Michele talks about, which is called a transient ischemic attack. It's kind of a pre-stroke where a person's blood flow to the brain, part of the brain slows down temporarily. And in her case, couldn't write or do certain things. So whatever part of the brain is affected. And this has an underlying cause, largely rooted in one of several lifestyle metrics: nutrition, exercise, managing stress, appropriate sleep. So I made it my mission to learn this on the side, to be able to say, hey, I'm going to learn how to manage medications and understand disease and surgery for when it is needed, because there still is a place for modern medicine, but also a whole other field, which at that day was in really not even launched, but has since become known as lifestyle medicine, that says, how are we going to address the root cause of disease? How are we going to not just treat symptoms, but understand that we can empower people to get better, like Michele did, to get off medications, to not only get absence of disease, but positive vitality and wellness, so that they can enjoy time with the grandkids or go bicycling. Or I just turned 65 last year, and last week I went scuba diving down 100 feet. I like to rollerblade and go flyboarding, and I like to ski fast and water ski. And without my health, I couldn't do all those things. Unfortunately, so many of the people I care for, much younger than me, have already lost much of the vitality that life has to offer due to preventable causes. So I try to work with them, as I did with Michele and with really thousands of others over the years, to be able to empower them to say, hey, it's not just genetics, it's not just bad luck, it's not just aging or family history. Sure, those things do play a minor role compared to lifestyle, environment, and mostly nutrition. But it's on your hands to be able to take charge and, as Helene said, adopt a lifestyle that brings you not only great health and vitality, but great tasting food. Michele's cookbook is great because it shows you how you can have colorful, flavorful, easy to make dishes that are also health promoting. Wow, it's like a win-win. So oftentimes people see it as deprivation, as, wow, you mean I can never go to Dairy Queen again, or have my mom's spare ribs? And well, you could do whatever you want, and yet you have to decide, what are your priorities. And if you love health and vitality, you find that there are foods that also satisfy your taste buds, your desires, your likes. In fact, even expanding on that, the flavors really come from the plant kingdom. So a great salad or a quinoa or a Mexican dish that's just made with the flavors of the vegetables can be just as or more satisfying than what you get used to, and provide health and vitality. So let me just mention one other story. About a month ago, we have patients come in for what are called Medicare wellness visits. And my medical assistant came in and she said, well, Alice is in room 9, but she doesn't really think she needs to see you. She just wants to say goodbye. And I said, how do you mean? What do you mean? She said, well, she's healthy and she just wants to say goodbye. I said, well, okay, let me go figure this out. So I get into the room and I see Alice. I've known her for 30 years, and she said I could share her story. And she's just smiling. She says, Dr. Breakey, I just want to thank you. She said, I'm moving to Traverse City, so I won't be able to keep you as my doctor. But 30 years ago, you inspired me to take better care of myself, to go plant-based, to understand and grow into a lifestyle that has served me so well that now I'm 68, I'm retiring, I'm moving up north where I can garden and be with my family. And look at me, I've got no medicines, I'm normal weight, I have no health problems. And I just want to thank you. You helped give me a better life. And I said, well, Thank you, Alice. I'm glad that I inspired you. You did the heavy lifting. You made the changes in your life that for so many are a challenge to do. And now you're enjoying those benefits. And I appreciate that you give me some credit for that, but it's really you. And I say the same to you, Michelle. It was there all along for you. And you did the hard work to do what it takes to now enjoy the benefits. Once again, thank you for inviting me to come on here. Helene, if you think it'd be helpful for your listeners, I can go into a little more of the science or the background on why this works this way.
I think that would be a great idea. Please do.
Okay. Okay, thanks. It turns out that the biggest factor in all of this is nutrition, is what we eat. I don't want to discount the great benefits of exercise, and you should plan 150 hours a week of appropriate high quality sleep. This is when your brain repairs itself, your immune system recharges, your gut microbiome sends signals throughout your body. Of social connectiveness, we are people who live in groups, and these connections form for us the great benefits that enhance immune function and help us to stick with what we know helps for us. And of avoiding risky behaviors like excess alcohol or really smoking anything. All of those are important factors. But without the right food, even the rest of that doesn't matter. Any given animal is meant to eat a certain kind of food. And the story we use here is Dr. John McDougall talks about, suppose you have a horse and a cat. And you said, well, I'm just going to switch it up. I'm going to feed the oats and the hay to the cat and the tuna fish and the chicken to the horse. And after a couple of weeks, the horse has diarrhea and he's walking funny and he's not doing well. And the cat's hair is falling out and he can hardly stand up. And the vets are scratching their head saying, I don't know. By the way, what do you feed your cat? You say, well, it's all food, right? I just mix it up a little. And they say, you imbecile. That's not food for that animal. You're going to kill it. And you switch the food back and they start doing well. Well, you see the analogy here. You take a human being that has evolved 98% plant-based and all whole food. There were no processed foods when our ancestors were around. And you make it eat the standard American diet, which is only about 11% whole food plant-based, over half processed foods, over 35% animal foods, and it just doesn't do very well. The arteries clog, the inflammation goes throughout the system, the microbiome, the bacteria in the colon get all imbalanced and create inflammation. And so in this environment comes what we think of as diseases, but are really just consequences of the wrong food for the wrong animal. And people get hypertensive, overweight, they start to have cancer, especially colon, prostate, and breast cancer are largely dietary diseases, heart disease, strokes. Most of the chronic diseases I see every day in my office are caused by what people eat or what they don't eat. So again, this should be good news for people. As your listeners are looking at how do I enhance my vitality? How do I enjoy life and get off medicines? You can do so by increasing your proportion of the new 4 food groups: vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and beans. It's not all or nothing, but the more you do, the more you gain, and the closer you come to a pure whole food plant-based diet, the lower your risks for many of these chronic conditions. I should throw Alzheimer's in there too. We now know that Alzheimer's is largely a lifestyle disease that comes with much greater risk for people that don't take care of themselves. I could just kind of summarize this in a slide. Helene, can you pull up that one slide I've got with the tree?
Sure can.
If you look at this tree, and let me see if I can make it bigger here. Is that good? Can you see it?
That's great.
So on the left side, you see that this tree growing in healthy soil, which is not compacted, is moist, and has lots of nutrients, is growing strong with many leaves and strong branches. On the other hand, in the soil on the right, it's compacted, it's dry, it doesn't have nutrients. It's still growing, but the bark is peeling, the leaves are not robust. This whole tree is not very healthy because it's not in the right environment or getting the nutrients it needs. Well, you see the analogy here on the left here, a person following a whole food plant-based lifestyle, getting some daily exercise, managing their stress, getting social connectedness, develops an environment rich in antioxidants, a healthy microbiome in their gut. Their diet's rich in phytonutrients, which support health throughout the body, suppress cancer cells, and enhance immune function. It's alkaline to put a greater balance for your kidneys, and a balanced, healthy set of micronutrients. That is all the protein you need in the right amounts, healthy fats in the right amounts, and strong, whole carbohydrate foods that provide your energy. With this comes strong blood flow and low inflammation, healthy organs, vitality, positive wellness, independence, and freedom. In contrast, most people live over here in a world of processed foods, a lot of animal foods, eggs, dairy, and meat, sedentary lifestyle, social isolation, and chronic stress, which creates imbalance in their microbiome, stress, insulin resistance, prediabetes. Ischemia means low blood flow and chronic inflammation, organ dysfunction, and as a result, chronic fatigue, coronary artery disease, diabetes, chronic pain, depression are the consequences of all of these effects. So the moral of the story is this is largely a choice. If you can focus on healthy environment, soil, nutrients for your body, you have that opportunity to be that tree on the left. Um, so again, good news for people. This is enjoyable and allows you to gain all that life has to offer for you. Um, See if I can put this back away. Can you see me again now?
Yeah,
Mr.
you're
Creek?
perfect.
Okay, good. Um, so I guess at this point, maybe we should see if your listeners have some questions too, because I can go on, and yet I don't want uh, to keep going if your people have certain things they'd like to ask.
Yeah, this has been fantastic. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing everything. And obviously I agree 100% with everything that you're saying. And if what you fill your body with is what you'll get out of your body.
Hmm.
That I feel like one of the things I think would make sense, and for Michelle, it was a big deal, is the oil. A lot of people
Yes.
go oil, oil, but we're not saying like don't eat avocado. We're not saying don't eat almonds and cashews and nuts or peanuts. We're not saying that. Obviously, those are healthy fats, and those are what you can cook with, and to add the fat to your food to give it the flavor that you're missing from using the processed oils. But why? Why no oil? Why no processed oil?
The first thing about oil is the calorie density. Vegetables average 100 calories per pound, and oils are 4,000 calories per pound. So that's 40 to 1. It's not 40% more, it's 4,000 percent. And that what that means is that small amounts can add to your waistline in a way that creates inflammation. Overweight in itself creates suppresses immune function, increases risk of diabetes, and increases inflammation throughout the system. So the main thing about oil is it's a fast way for many people to inadvertently get a lot of empty calories. The analogy I use is if you have a sugar beet and you eat that whole beet, you're getting the phytonutrients and the protein and the fiber and the complex carbs that come with that. If you extract out the sucrose in a bag of Domino's sugar, all you have is the empty calories from that beet without the true nutrition. So the same is true with oil. Corn oil comes from corn, which in a whole food farm is a healthy food. But when you extract the oil, all you've got is the empty calories without all that other good stuff. Olive oil comes from olives, which can be a good food. They're a bit high in salt, so don't overdo it. But eat the whole food is the thing. So that's number one about oil. It's very calorie dense. And the other way to look at that is it just doesn't take much to mess up a whole meal. A whole pound of salad, a big bowl of lettuce and cucumbers and tomatoes and sprouts and kale and is 100 calories, a whole pound. 2 tablespoons of oil adds another 240 calories. You just made that, like 2/3, no, almost 3/4 fat. Um, and people have a hard time grasping that. Like, no, it's 98% vegetables, and I just put 2 little tablespoons of ranch dressing on it. No, calorie density counts. You just made that three. Uh, and by the way, a lot of people use more than just 2 tablespoons. Picture one level tablespoon of ranch dressing. It's hardly enough to
Yeah.
cover a quarter of the salad, right? So you see the principle there that it doesn't take much. Same with stir fry. A whole pan of vegetables, 100 calories, 1 tablespoon of oil just made it 60% fat. Now, the good news is there are things that you can use that taste just as good or better. Use a little vegetable broth, a little white wine if you like, or a little water, or just keep them moving in a nonstick pan. You don't need the oil to make it taste good, and you do yourself some favors by improving. Now, um, the reason olive oil has a good reputation, though, is it is less worse than saturated fats. If you replace butter and sour cream and cheese with olive oil, people do much better. Those mono and polyunsaturated fats are less worse than saturated fats and cholesterol. And that's where people kind of get confused. Like, wow, I heard olive oil is very healthy because Mediterranean diet and people that eat that instead of butter are way healthier. Yes, that's true. And there's a next step, if you like. So, again, don't want to make perfect the enemy of good. If you need a little bit of oil, olive oil is the least worst. And don't fall for coconut oil, very high in saturated fats. The medium chain triglycerides don't make up for that. Skip the coconut oil. Um, and use a small amount as you like. And ideally, just like with other foods that are not health supporting, the less the better.
Right. And then Jeff just posted a question. He changed from an acidic to an alkaline body on this lifestyle in a very short time. How important is that?
Yeah, great question, Jeff. The foods have either an alkaline or acid response in the body. And remember back from chemistry, there are weak and strong acids. The weak acids, like citric acid and ascorbic acid in citrus fruits, or even the acid in vinegar, doesn't really count for much. That's okay. That kind of acid is weak and it won't count. With a really strong acids, you remember, are sulfuric acid and hydrochloric acid. Obviously, you wouldn't drink these, but in a sense, when you eat animal foods, you're eating sulfuric acid indirectly. And the reason for that is all proteins are made of one of 20 different amino acids. Two of these, cysteine and methionine, contain a sulfur compound in there. And when you eat excess, the only way to get those out of your system is to metabolize them, to burn them for calories. And that sulfur turns into sulfuric acid. That puts a person in what's called metabolic acidosis. And that's why most Americans have a very acidic urine. The kidneys are correcting for this excess acidic food intake. And the worst in this case is fish, poultry, and chicken. A lot of people are surprised for that because they're a bit lower in fat. They may be incrementally better for your heart, but they're worse for your acid effect on your kidneys. Um, and these then, again, without getting too technical, put your body out of balance and can lead to chronic problems like osteoporosis or chronic kidney disease, or I should say contribute or increase the risk for. So yes, important to have an alkaline balance, and most people on a whole food plant-based diet have a urine pH of 6.5 to 8, which is about neutral. Most Americans have a pH of between 4 and 6, which is a very acid sign that your kidneys are trying to make up for that imbalance. By the way, a lot of people also ask me about alkaline water. Can I just drink alkaline water and make up the difference for that? Again, the amount of alkalinity in there can't make up for eating fish every day or chicken. It's just not enough to unbalance that. So yes, great question, Jeff. Thank you for asking.
And on that note, prior to me going to Dr. Breakey, I had seen another doctor, and he like everybody else, was running tests. And one of the things he did was he tested my pH level. And I was absolutely stunned when he said, there is no color on this chart for how acidic your body is. And I was absolutely shocked. That was, of course, shortly before I started on this plant-based journey. But it is so important because I think that was one of the reasons why I was going through all the things that I was going through, is because my body was so acidic. So, that helps an awful lot to really know that. On another note, I think what was really important that I learned to do, that Dr. Breakey taught me, was read the ingredient list on everything you buy. Because there are so many processed ingredients that are not healthy for you. And the shorter the list, the better it is. And I was kind of amazed that when the hummus that I was buying from the store contained oil, and I started reading labels on everything else, and I soon realized so many things, most of what we were buying contained some amount of oil. So, again, that's when I started making my own things. I make my own hummus. I make my own ice cream. Everything I make from scratch, and it's just so much better. The taste is different, then it's not being camouflaged by so many other things, and it doesn't contain all of the sugar. So it's important to read ingredient labels also.
All right, great. Dr. Breakey, can you say again what the pH should be without being too acidic?
Sure. The quote normal range for urine pH when we get it from the lab is between 4 and 8. But the normal human range for a person on a good diet should be between 6.5 and 8. That shows that you're on an appropriate balanced alkalinizing diet. Now, it'll vary some time to time. I don't want people to get too tied to this. And there may be times when it goes below 6.5, but on average, that can be a marker for your underlying acid-base balance. I don't want to put too much on this. The acid-base balance is one component of it. Probably more important is the inflammation in your system. And animal foods contain a substance called, I should say, red meats have a lot of what's called heme iron. And this is not only an antioxidant, it's a pro-oxidant. It creates free radicals throughout the body. Chicken and eggs especially have a substance called arachidonic acid, which is the substance our own bodies use to instigate inflammation when we need it, when we get a cut or a scrape. And these chickens have it in them, and we eat that inflammation. The third is trimethylamine oxide that's formed from carnitine in meat and choline in eggs. And together, these animal foods conspire to create a whole body kind of in chronic inflammation. In that environment, insulin resistance and diabetes, cancer grows well, atherosclerosis, clogged arteries, heart disease, tangles in the brain, and Alzheimer's, which, by the way, can start 20 or 30 years before clinical manifestations of memory loss or brain or concerns with cognitive function. So all of these things are due to, largely, as I mentioned, that trunk of the tree, which is blood flow and inflammation. So acid-base balance is important and one component of a much bigger picture of why plant foods, which are rich in phytonutrients, fiber, balanced macronutrients, are health supporting for our systems, and why animal and processed foods are health degrading.
Thank you for that. I actually looked up my pH because I just had that done, and I was like, all right, let me look start, and it was 7.5. So I was like, oh, I'm
Oh,
right there. I was like, yes. It's such a funny thing. So
you know,
Michelle, go ahead.
two other
Sorry.
Yeah, two other quick markers if you've got your labs pulled up there. Your BUN is called your blood urea nitrogen. Normal is up to 24, but that are people on very high protein diets. Much better to have 15 or less for your BUN. You don't have to share your number if you don't want to. And the second is your white blood cell count if you get a CBC count. Even within the normal range, which is between 4 and 10. As you go up that range, that's a marker for inflammation and increased risk for heart disease, cancer, and all-cause mortality. So better to be in the 5.5, between 2.5 and 5.5, which is where people tend to congregate who are on a whole food plant-based diet. So we really have to kind of redefine normal ranges for many lab values. And this was a talk I gave at the last PPOD conference. If your folks are interested in a kind of in-depth review of these things, join us later this month at the PPOD conference. It's called Plant-Based Prevention of Disease. And if you go to p-pod, that's p-pod.org, you'll see the info about the virtual conference coming later this month and the in-person conference in November in Orlando. It's mostly for the health professionals, dietitians, and nurses, but anybody can join. And again, great set of speakers with information in great detail on all the topics that we're covering here today.
Yeah, Bob's incredible for the Peapod conference. Bob is because he started in Raleigh, which is where I live. So I know Bob and I've been to the conference and it is like over whoosh, a lot of it, but a lot of it isn't. So stuff like this will you go into more depth, but I've heard some amazing things at the Peapod conference. My BUN was 6.
Excellent.
I feel so healthy.
That's a great number. By the way, she wasn't talking about me, Bob. That's Bob Leroy, the founder of Peapod. It's in its 8th year now of presenting these evidence-based, no sponsor, no hidden agenda, CME approved conferences. So I just want to put a plug in for that for people for looking more info. And then the other one that Michele mentioned is PBNSG. The plant-based nutrition support group started by Paul Chaplin right here in Southeast Michigan. Maybe you can post that up to pbnsg.org. A great organization that's going national now and has monthly small group meetings. The next one starts in a half hour. If you want to continue your talk with Paul Chaplin, will be on that. And then monthly big name speakers, including Kim Williams, Dean Ornish, Michael Greger. Some of the biggest names come to PBNSG, give talks. And then cooking classes. It's really an organization about community support for each other. And with over 9,000 members now, is doing a great job of helping to support people's in their quest to live a plant-based lifestyle and the health and vitality that it brings.
That's fantastic. Kim Williams is one of the people that I heard at Peapod when they were here in Raleigh. And one of the things that he said, which was so important, is that even if you're eating a vegan diet, it could be as bad or maybe even worse than eating a standard American diet, depending on
Yeah.
what you're fueling your body, which most people would think, oh, I'm eating vegan, I'm healthier.
Yeah.
No, if you're eating fried plant-based food, fried plant-based processed foods every single day for all your meals, then odds are you could be as unhealthy as a person eating a standard American diet, if not more unhealthier than somebody who is eating animal products. So that was like that really stuck with me.
Yeah, that's right. Coca-Cola, French fries, and even Oreos are all vegan, but they are not health supporting.
Exactly. Michelle, let's talk about your book because Jeff
Okay.
wants to know where is Michelle's book available, and it is actually on virtualvegfest.com right now if you want to purchase the book. And let's talk about it. I love food and recipes, so
Well, this was a dream come true for me. I just was so passionate about wanting to share my experience and share the good things that came out of all of this with everybody. And I love to cook, so those were two good things for me. And I just kind of went through and I started putting in what were the biggest obstacles I had? What were the questions I had? What were the things that I struggled with? And I just started writing it out and putting it together, and dividing things up into chapters. And I think for me, one of the biggest ones is, what is your why? Why do you want to do this? Why? Not only why do you want to go to a plant-based lifestyle, but what's your big reason why? What's the most important thing to you? And that's kind of where I was. And I became so passionate that, I've got to be able to help people. There's something that I have to be able to do to help others and bring them along on this wonderful, wonderful journey. So I created the book, and in the book, I have areas where, what do you do when you're going out? How do you eat when you go out? What do you do when you're with family and friends who are not on board with you? And, to be honest, a lot of people aren't going to be, and you don't want to push anybody, but you just, share, well, that's okay. But, I'm eating this way because I really want a healthy lifestyle for me. And you never want to push anybody into anything. And, sure enough, slowly, little by little, people were interested in what I was doing, and they wanted to know a little bit more about it. And so I continued with that, and I have a chapter on substitutions. It's a huge chapter. And it's, if this is what you used to cook with, what can I substitute it with now? And there's all these different options. Dr. Breakey, touched on one of them is, coconut oil, but there's also the coconut milk, which can be higher in fat. So even though there's like a recipe, I think actually two, that call for coconut milk, it's not something that you would eat every day. For instance, the dessert that Dr. Breakey made, it was my mini key lime pies. And they're really good. It's like a frozen treat, but it's not something you would make every day. It's definitely just a little treat. But it's the list of substitutions that you're looking for. Cheeses. What can I substitute with cheese? Well, I now make my own cheese. And I love the way that it tastes, and I'm getting better at making some taste like cheddar. So it's kind of working with a lot of that. But a lot of the obstacles that people have encountered, if you're going someplace and it's work related, what do you do? There are so many things that you can do. And if you prepare ahead of time, call the restaurant that that you're going to. Ask, is it possible to make this without oil? Do you have this? Do you have that? And baked potatoes is one to watch out for when you go out, because a lot of restaurants will rub them in oil and then put it in aluminum foil. So you do want to ask those questions. Can you do vegetables for me without oil? And a lot of people will be more than willing to do that for you. So it's a really good guide for what to do, what not to do. And then we go into the recipes. I have recipes for breakfasts, for appetizers, lunch, sandwiches, you name it, it's all in there. I even have 2 recipes on how to make plant-based dog biscuits. So for people that have their furry friends and they care about their furry friends, there's 2 recipes in there for that. And I actually, made one for one of Jeff's sons, because his dog was not feeling good at all. Poor Lexi, she was having a hard time. And so I made the pumpkin one, and she loved the pumpkin. And that didn't cause anything for her at all. She was able to eat that. So the dog biscuits are kind of a neat thing. But just how to make your own salad dressings. I love different flavored salad dressings, since I could no longer do the flavored olive oils. So I learned to make my own salad dressings, and there's so many different ones now that I make. They're just really great, and I use a lot of them on different salads and pasta salads and that. But it's a really good go-to guide for what you need to look for. What am I having trouble with? I think another area that I get asked a lot about is, I don't have time to cook. And that's, I think, a big one for a lot of people. Well, I learned how to do batch cooking. So, and people aren't aware, brown rice is a lot healthier than white rice. White rice contains a lot more arsenic, but you always want to rinse your rice out. But I do batch cooking, so I'll make a huge batch, sometimes several batches of brown rice. And I'll take a quart size Ziploc bag, and I'll put some in there. I'll label it with how many cups are in there and the date, and put it in the freezer. So if you want to make a rice dish, you don't have to wait to cook the rice. It's already cooked. And you just take it out, thaw it out, add it into your foods. One thing that I like to make really quick is brown rice. Grab some salsa that's all natural. Grab some salsa, grab some black beans, add a little bit of corn in there, a couple other veggies, and you've got a great quick meal. So that's something that I do. Salads I prepare ahead of time. Jeff and I eat a lot of salads, so I will use containers that are, I believe it's a 16-ounce container, and I'll put the salad in there. I'll make enough for a whole week for both of us. And the tomatoes are in there, and the celery and the peppers are in there, and the zucchini and cucumbers, and you name it, it's in there. And I put it all in the fridge, so when we want one for lunch, just grab it, put your nice salad dressing on there, and you're good to go. Sometimes I'll even have a salad for breakfast. So salads have become a big part of our life. Vegetables, I'll do the same thing for vegetables. I'll prepare some vegetables, freeze them, put them away, and when I'm ready to go for it, it's there. I go to a farmer's market that's in Michigan that's really good, and I'll buy dozens of ears of corn, and I will freeze that. And again, you bag it, label it, and put that in the freezer. So bananas for my nice cream, which is ice cream for plant-based eaters. I will go, and the people at Kroger know me now. When I come in, they see me coming towards the bananas, and if someone's there, they go, "Okay, how many do you want? You make that ice cream that doesn't have any cream or milk or anything, right?" And I go, "Yeah." So I use the bananas, and I will take them and I'll freeze them and put them in there again in a Ziploc bag. I usually do 3 to 4 bananas per bag, and date it and put how many are in there and put that in the freezer. So when you want to make ice cream, pull it out. Same for fruit. You can freeze the fruit, or you can buy frozen fruit to add to your ice cream. So I do a lot of batch cooking to prepare things ahead of time. I will do soups in big quantities because I can then freeze them. And when we want to pull one out, just pull it out, let it thaw a little bit. You can put it in the microwave, and you've got your soup. I do the same for chili. I've made a really great chili that uses cherries from Traverse City because they're so good. And I put them in the chili, and I freeze that, label, date it, everything. So I do a lot of batch cooking to help. And for people that don't have time, that's the best way to do anything. If you make a meal, make extras, and then just put it in the freezer, and you've got a great meal to go. So again, the book is a great how-to guide, and it's good for beginners. For people that don't know where to go or beginning their journey, or even somebody that's been on it for a while. It's just a great guide to go to. And I now have the EPUB version of the book available, which is available on your site. And I have the PDF version also. So if somebody wanted that version versus the physical book, they can do that. I'm the person that I'm old-fashioned, so I like the physical book. I like to kind of hold it in my hand and be able to have it. But it's great when you've got that PDF or EPUB version, because then you can take it with you wherever you go, and then you've got your cookbook on the go. So that's pretty much my cookbook in a nutshell. Again, I had help from Dr. Breakey on that, making sure that all the right references were there. And I researched so much into that book, and a lot went into it, but it was with great help from Dr. Breakey. So Dr. Breakey, thank you again.
Yeah, well, thank you, Michele. You're inspiring for so many to be able to say not only the why, but the how. And that's what people often need. As soon as they understand that this is better. And Helene, before we finish, because I know we're coming to the end, I just wanted to mention two other things for benefits for this lifestyle, and also were instrumental in my getting started. One is that this is also better for the earth. When you look at the animal husbandry, all the topsoil erosion, the waste, the excess fresh water use, the chemical fertilizers, the carbon output. It turns out that the carbon output from animal husbandry, especially beef, is the worst, is more than all of transportation combined. So as I'm looking at my 4-year-old granddaughter and saying, I want you to have the opportunities I have, when I say, when you're my age and it's 2083, I want the earth to be supportive of humanity. I eat this way in large part for her as well. And then the second is the animals, is that the conditions on modern day factory farms are nothing short of abhorrent. They hide it from us, but you can see it in documentaries. Vegucated is a good one that kind of gives you the not too not too hard to watch version of that. But unfortunately, we have treated our fellow sentient beings with not only disrespect but with torture and killing them unnecessarily. In fact, worse than unnecessarily, it's making us ill in the process as well. So it's a win-win-win. Better for your health and yourself, your family, better for the environment, and better for the animals. And Helene, we just want to thank you for helping to um, bring people to that understanding, to help with a number of different guests and podcasts you've had to help positively influence the lives of thousands over time. We know this is a lot of work and a labor of love, even when you're on vacation. Chime in from your hotel. So thank you for having us and for sharing your wisdom with so many.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Helene.
Oh no, thank you both for being part of this. This is a ton of fun. This is something that came out of COVID last year with I never get to MC my events because I'm producing them, I'm organizing them. I don't have the time to stop and run and MC then run away. And this gave me that ability to have my public speaking piece of me satisfied. And it's really a lot of fun because it's a conversation and I get to know everybody better than I knew you an hour ago.
Right.
And what we share with everybody else is incredibly important. And you're right, for the animals, for the planet, for your health are the top tenets of why we're doing this. And whatever that piece is that you gravitate towards, whatever that seed is that gets planted to help you move in the direction that is healthier for you or better for the animals or better for the planet, whatever that is, hopefully, if it's not today, the seed has been planted for you to get there at some point. I hope that the catalyst isn't something like a mini stroke or a visit to the hospital or not being able to sign your name, your parent or someone you love having a heart attack or getting cancer. We hope it doesn't have to come to that you can learn those lessons from other people and help yourself. There's no shortage. Look at my social media for the last week. There is no shortage of food. We are on the road and we've eaten incredible food in 3 different states. And yeah, it's delicious. And remember, we talked about when you eat meat, nobody puts a piece of animal protein onto the stove and doesn't season it. If you were to not season it, it would taste like crap, literally horrible. The only reason that food tastes good is from the seasonings. The seasonings that you're using are what make plant-based food taste good. Thyme,
Same thing.
garlic,
Yeah.
onion, pepper, seasoned salt, paprika. We can go cumin. You can go on smoked pepper. You can go on forever with seasonings. That's why food tastes good. Not the product, not the animal product, but the how you season it. You can season all plant-based food with all of that, and it tastes incredible. And you don't even need to use salt, if or maybe a little. You don't need to use a lot of it. It's You taste more when you flavor it with less salt or no salt. It tastes better. You taste more flavors than just salt if you do that. Okay, I'm done with
Correct.
my soapbox. Thank you both so much. Dr. Breakey, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how would they do that? Because I put up Michelle's website, but how do people get in touch with you?
Wow, I'm a member of a medical group called IHA in the Ann Arbor area. It's ihacares.com, and that's Integrated Health Associates, cares.com. And I do give talks for various organizations along the way. I guess you can see some more of my different talks on YouTube, and appreciate your info. I really don't have anything to sell though, or my practice is full. I'm just here to help educate people, and appreciate the opportunity to help. Like for Alice and Michelle, to try to help inspire people to change their lives for the positive.
Yeah.
We-
And Helene, also, I've got my Instagram and my Facebook page. If anybody wants to follow along, that's under a plant-based revolution.com, or not .com, but on Facebook it's a plant-based revolution, and it's the same for Instagram as well.
All right, perfect. Thank you. And it looks like we have something, Facebook and Instagram. Okay, so Cecilia, let me get this. Cecilia says there's no shortage of food depending on where you live. That is true. Sadly, there's not a shortage of food, but there's a shortage of feeding people. And that is a whole other hour and topic that
Right.
we could delve into. That's a big issue in this country and around the world. We make enough food, we just don't feed people with it. And it's really scary. The food that we actually feed the animals is enough food to make it so there is no one who goes to sleep hungry tonight. Imagine
Very
that. If
true.
we stop
Yeah.
eating the animals, we stop eating cows, stop eating the pigs and the chickens, the food that we feed them could feed humans, and the humans would no longer be hungry. So,
Very true.
thank you both so much for joining me. This has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. Dr. Breakey, I would love to bring you to our events when we have speakers again.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. I hope you have a great rest of your Thursday.
All
Thank
right. Thank
you.
you. Have a great
Bye.
weekend, and we'll
Bye.
talk again soon.
Yes,
Thanks.
please. Bye. Well, thank you once again for watching Virtual Veg Fest Live, the on the road edition. And I didn't look to see who was next week. So let's go see who's next week. Okay, so Rachel Carr is on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It looks like. Yep, 4 p.m. And then on not Saturday. Oh, I have a Sunday talk. Okay, Bridget's coming on Sunday. Oh, Michelle just left, but Cecilia, you can purchase her book on virtualvegfest.com, and you can also go to a plantbasedrevolution.com as well if you want to learn more. So that's great. Thank you for watching and asking the question. So Bridget is on, and she's like really that's a cooking demo on Sunday at that one's actually earlier. It looks like I don't know exactly what time are we starting. We're starting at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So thank you once again for joining. Remember to be kind. I actually have a shirt on today that says the words "Be kind" from Herbivore. It's a rough world out there. Be nice to one another and like our social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Virtual Veg Fest, and hit the little bell so you're reminded when we put stuff up. All these talks are up there. There's like over 130 of them now, I'm pretty sure. Thanks again and have a great rest of your week. We are back next week and we're going to enjoy Asheville now. Thanks. Bye.